Hello and welcome. I'm going to show you guys how to play $7 6 max turbos. Hopefully we'll get 2 games loaded up and go pretty deep in one so I can show you guys how to play when you're heads up. So I have start off with King 8 in the big blind. Hand doesn't play great post flop, but luckily I just get a walk, so no problem there. Big hand in the small blind here, ace queen off. So I'm actually not using a HUD, which is a heads up display right now, just because I lost the key on my old one. I forgot what it was, and when I was transferring to my new computer, oh wow, this is interesting. So I opened standard sizing this early, and he shoves. He seems like a reg. I can't tell if he's trying to get me to make a spaz call or something, but the chips are so early, and I need to have the best hand like a large percentage of the time in order to make this call profitable. I feel like I'm probably be flipping, but I could just be behind a fair bit of the time, so I'm just going to fold. I'm not really sure how I like that spot. There I just decided to limp just because I'm in a small blind, have a weak ace, and I'm pretty sure that every time this guy's limping from the button he's just going to call me, and this hand doesn't play great post flop, so if I miss the ace I can just fold, as you'll see here. Jack 7 off, I just decided to fold there because seemed a bit loose. I didn't really feel like it was good enough for a 3-bet, so I just decided to ultimately fold it. Very interesting spot actually. With this guy, I'm trying to figure out sort of hands he would do that with, and I guess against a small blind steal he would do that with a fair bit of wide ranges, but I would say a lot of his hands are made up with medium to large pocket pairs. I feel like he was just looking for a spazzy call out of me with worse. He could even have ace king there. But in any case, it's a very difficult call with ace queen there. I mean, I'm not really ahead of that much. I would say I could sort of take aces and kings out of his range just based on what he did. I'll just call here. Could 3-bet, but it's an under the gun raiser. I haven't seen him been too active, so he checks to me. So just because he checked, I'm gonna lead out. Here I'll open up the cutoff with ace-6 off. Hopefully it gets through. In any case, I'll be playing position post flop, assuming I don't get 3-bet and have to fold, which happens actually. Small blind 3-bet. This looks pretty strong. No need to get calling is really bad here, because even if I hit the ace in the flop, and he c-bets, I'm just going to be guessing whether he's bluffing or actually has it. 4-betting is an option, but I just don't see him doing this light enough, because I haven't seen him be that active early on. I think 4-betting is too light, especially considering his large 3-bet size. Okay, he limps. I want to ISO raise here, so ISO raise just means to raise enough to kick all these people out and go heads up against him, because his hand flops very well. About average at all these tables. Senior made a raise. I'm going to defend probably my big blind with 10-8 suited, flops really well, and I don't mind really playing out of position against this guy. It's not doesn't seem like the greatest player, just based on his earlier play. I mean, because if I miss here, again, I can just let go. This is a weird board. I don't feel like I can really bluff here. I could raise, but if he calls me, I'd feel compelled to barrel the turn, which probably isn't good considering a lot of the hands he'll call me with on the flop that he would shut down with and continue with on the turn. So I'm just gonna let it go. Just fold. Oh, pocket kings here. Hopefully we get a scenario where I raise to 60 and he shoves again, because that happens here. This would work out pretty well. Okay, he raised under the gun to 60. This is a good spot, I feel like, to value raise. Oh, he ends up re-raising, so it's interesting. I think this is a spot where I'm supposed to make it about 400. And essentially, I'm actually I'll make it 380, but I plan to get it in. Like if he shoves I have to call here, if he has aces, so be it. Just one of these spots, you can't really get away from kings ever, in a 6-max game especially. You know, if they have aces, so be it, and you know, he really looks like he has aces here based on how he's playing, but I sort of have to go with it. But he has jacks here, luckily, and I just have to fade a jack on the river, and end up hitting my set. So I take a pretty good lead. An early position raise, I mean, he's raising a pretty, I wouldn't say he's raising a really wide variety of hands, but he's still not raising, you know, aces only, for example. And so when this guy 3-bets, I can't really just call out of position here, because obviously I could play any non-ace flop just very aggressively, but I don't want to give him the odds to come in, because I'm trying to think of some of the hands that he opens with could be very speculative, like small pocket pairs, or like 8-7, which, I mean, they're not doing great against pocket kings, but they are the sort of hands that you can get in for relatively cheap, and then if you hit your hand, you're going to get paid off a lot of the time. He ends up going busto, so we're down to 5 here. The payouts for these are usually about 65-35. So first place would get, you know, about 2/3 of the profit, whereas second place gets a third. Pretty much double their money back. I'm going to call here. His hand plays well post flop, and I have position on this guy, so can float him on some flops as well, depending on how the board comes out. We'll see what I do. Okay, I hit middle pair, so he's gonna call him down for at least the first bet if he's c-betting. I'm also gonna, if he checks to me, I'm obviously gonna lead out. So he leads out. It's a pretty easy call here. If he leads out on the turn here, I might need to just lay this down. I mean, it's not ideal considering I called pre-flop his early position raise, but I just don't see him double barreling without an ace that often. So I'm just going to lay that down. Sorry about the mess on my desktop, by the way. To anyone watching who might have been noticing, I sort of have to clean that up still. And again, this guy opens and he shoves. I'm starting to actually thinking my ace-queen fold might not have been that good. I'm trying to think though if he would have any like weaker aces in his range there, and I just don't see it. He opens. This is a small blind open, so I'm gonna 3-bet. I already have position on him, but you know, I'd rather I'd be content taking it down now, and even if we go to a flop, I don't really. Ooh, okay, this is an interesting board. I feel like I should check behind here. I mean, it's bad because I'm not really protecting against the clubs. I don't want to have to bet and get bluffed off by like a king high flush draw and have to fold, so I'll check. And he has a that could be bad. I'll just raise it up to 90. He checks again, I'm checking back, and I'm probably going to have to call the river now just based on how he played the hand. I check back, and he'll have a king. I mean, you could, I think a bet on the flop was perfectly fine there. I just didn't want to have to bet, and I feel like he'd have a wide bluffing range there, just based on, you know, the amount him thinking about the hands that I would have in that sort of spot, which would also include a lot of bluffs, and or pocket pairs that I'm turning into bluffs, like jacks, kings, queens, maybe with the kings of the club or something, queens of the club. And if I don't want to have to get re-raised by, say, if he had a king of clubs and some random other hand, like king, queen of clubs, or yeah, with the king of clubs. I'm sort of having trouble explaining my thought process here, but I think you guys get the point, whoever's watching. 60, yeah, okay. Again, this guy seems like he's opening fairly wide, so I'm just going to keep ISOing him. So it's 3-bet, and I'm just going to pound pretty much any flop. There are a few flops I'm not going to, obviously, because they would just hit his calling range too much, but in general, it's a fine flop. I hit bottom pair. I have obviously showdown value, but still, it's fine to just bet and try taking it down here. If he calls, he pretty much is gonna a lot of the time have some sort of queen. I show up with king queen before in a similar spot where I 3-bet him, so I would just shut down on a lot of turns. And but luckily he just folds right there. Pretty decent lead at this table right now. Generally, the $7 games don't have that many